new regulatory proposal by the SEC has the ability to have a significant impact on the development and investment in cryptocurrency projects in the United States. And of course, Hester Peirce, crypto mom, she's the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commissioner. She has presented a new proposal on how to regulate cryptocurrencies. Under her proposed policy, the way that U.S. regulators evaluate blockchain-based digital assets as being financial securities could dramatically change. As of right now, only a small number of cryptocurrencies are exempt from U.S. securities laws, which is to say financial regulators do not classify Bitcoin or Ether, for example, as securities. While most other projects, particularly tokens, which were offered as part of an ICO or initial coin offering, typically do fall under the category of security and run afoul of U.S. securities laws. One such example was the Telegram token offering, which we covered the SEC investigation into recently on this show. Now, while there have been a few exceptions to this rule, the SEC maintains that the risk is quite high that many projects and their initial coin offerings do qualify as securities and therefore are unapproved token sales. Now, this perilous regulatory scheme means investment and innovation in the crypto space is seriously stifled, and many existing projects could be the subject of future SEC investigation. However, under Hester Peirce's new safe haven proposal, companies issuing digital tokens would be granted some breathing room in order to establish their networks and communities before having to meet regulatory requirements later. And the SEC commissioner made her comment on Thursday while speaking at the International Blockchain Congress in Chicago. Peirce described how crypto firms should be allowed a 3-year grace period from the launch of their first token offering in order to reach a certain level of decentralization of the project. And once the project gets off the ground and the threshold for decentralization is met, the project's tokens would no longer meet SEC criteria for being classified as securities under the federal securities law. Now, leaders within the crypto industry are applauding the commissioner's proposed approach to regulating crypto startups, commending a delicate approach which won't get entrepreneurs abroad in search of friendlier jurisdictions to support their tech innovation. Now, Binance US CEO Catherine Coley tweeted, if adopted, the proposed safe harbor could be the most groundbreaking development for the US cryptocurrency market to date. By putting development first and giving projects a runway to build robust networks, the proposed safe harbor puts an important stake in the ground towards supporting American access and acceptance of digital asset markets. In the long run, it will help bring more Americans into digital asset trading and foster greater network participation. Now, by adopting the proposal, regulators would acknowledge the realities of bringing a modern blockchain project to life as a decentralized network. It needs time, developers, users, use case, and steady adoption. Now, as the SEC commissioner described it, the analysis of whether a token is offered or sold as a security is not static and does not strictly adhere to the digital asset. So while some tokens and projects do, of course, have the characteristics of a security when they're first introduced, their nature is fluid. And as the network expands, their purpose evolves. Steve Kokinos, who is the CEO of Algorand, calls the idea an important step. The blockchain industry and regulators need to continue a healthy dialogue for the United States to truly become the global and responsible leader in blockchain innovation. Katie Biber from Anchorage, which is an institutional-grade cryptocurrency custodian, said that they urge the commission to move promptly to adopt this measure and to consider other innovative ways to increase investors' choices in the digital asset space. Now, if Peirce's proposal is accepted, then it could establish strict rules for crypto and blockchain projects debuting for commercial investment. Clear regulatory guidelines would be issued concerning the raising of capital via token sales, personal disclosure issuing requirements, source code disclosures, appropriate public announcements, as well as publicly listing and revealing the identities of the ICO team members. The goal of regulators would be to protect consumers while also fostering an environment suitable for innovation in the crypto space to take place. The proposal also includes clarification on the term network maturity, which is described as the point at which a project's digital tokens are no longer being controlled by a single entity. Quoting the document, the definition of network maturity for a cryptocurrency is intended to provide clarity as to when a token transaction should no longer be considered a security transaction, but as always, the analysis will require an evaluation of the particular facts and circumstances. The SEC commissioner affirmed that the success of the safe harbor proposal depends on token issuers participating in good faith, and that it doesn't undermine the ability of regulators to carry out any necessary enforcement action against fraudulent ICOs or others involved in illegal activity. So, we can look at, massive projects, for example, EOS, for example, which is one of the probably biggest events that has happened. Its launch was highly controversial. And considered largely centralized when it launched on the Ethereum network. And then they were able to get their mainnet launched out. Now, some could argue about the centralization or decentralization of the EOS network, but essentially this provides current crypto projects a roadmap and the ability to develop. So we can say that any such projects that launched in 2018, although I think that many of them will be considered failed projects, this gives them a roadmap because this gives them time to meet decentralization requirements and gives us a clear kind of roadmap moving forward for how we can begin bringing individuals in, begin bringing investors in, and allowing individuals the access to attain kind of the returns of these startup gains. Now, what this unfortunately means is that for many projects, they are going to put investor requirements on there, such as accredited investor or blah, 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 which means, again, the SEC is going to do everything in its power to kind of tramp down on individual retail investors getting access to those venture capital, startup capital returns, those 1000x returns, which seem insane to retail investors. And that's why their eyes roll back in their head when you try to explain that to them. But the reality is that those returns are what venture capital firms are looking for and have always looked for. Why do you think there is so much money that flows into startups? Why do you think you can go to San Francisco right now and pretty much anybody with a good idea is getting several $1 million in funding? Because venture capital firms are looking for yield. They're looking for ROI. They're looking for return, and their return is that 10x, 20x, 100x return. That's normal to them. That's what they're aiming for. That's what their business model is based around. It's what their model is based around. So I think this is groundbreaking. Obviously, this isn't approved yet. This is still going to be discussed. This is still going to be, potentially controversial. But if approved, I think this gives altcoin projects a massive, massive leg forward and could really open the floodgates into investment in current projects, because that's basically a carte blanche for you to launch a startup project as long as you follow the rules and that you have a clear kind of roadmap to get to where you're not considered a security. Now, this takes so much stress, so much strain off currently existing projects and projects that are considering launching in the near future. So, fantastic idea from Crypto Mom over here. I fully support it. I think it's awesome. Let me know your guys' thoughts and comments in the section down below. I'm sure a lot of people are going to be against this. I'm sure a lot of people are going to be for this. But please, let me know what you guys think. Again, down in the comments section.